Following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with a review of a Transformers figure that I originally had no intention of buying. I was going to pass on this figure and had no interest in adding it to my Transformers collection at all. But then one day I noticed something that some other collectors were discussing about this figure, and it made me decide to get it and add it to my Transformers collection, and that's why the title of the video is the way it is because tonight we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Wave 1 Deluxe Class Prime Arcee figure. So yes, Hasbro decided to start off showing collectors that the Legacy line is about Transformers figures from all the previous sub-series of the Transformers by having the Prime version of Arcee be one of the deluxe figures in Wave 1 of the line. Here's Legacy logo, here's Prime Arcee inside her box. I hate these open window packagings. Here, so there she is in the box. Image of her motorcycle alt mode for her artwork. The box art, here's her close-up of her face, here's her robot mode, same image. Which is that one there. On this side of the box, you've got the poster image for the Legacy line, at least the Autobot side. Right there. Going on here to the back of the box, we got Arcee in her robot mode and her vehicle mode of a motorcycle. She transforms back and forth between both modes in just 20 steps. There's nothing interesting on the bottom of the box. There's the barcode if you want. And so as the title of the video is asking, and this is a question I've already asked some of my subscribers their opinions on it. The main reason I decided to change my mind and got the Legacy Prime Arcee figure and I've added her to my collection is because some collectors pointed out that the Legacy Prime Arcee Deluxe figure, even though it's not entirely accurate, she can pass as being a figure based off of the Transformers Generation 1 character of Solus Prime. So for those of you who don't know, Solus Prime was, I believe, the first member of the only member of the 13 original Primes created by Primus, who was a female Prime. So Solus Prime was the first ever female Transformer, and there was actually a figure released at, I can't remember if it was through BotCon or the Collectors Club, based on Solus Prime that was a repaint and slight retool of the original Prime Deluxe Class Arcee figure. So that's the main reason why I got this figure, is to use as my G1 Solus Prime figure. The Transformers Prime version of Arcee, I can see why a lot of Transformers fans and collectors say that she's their favorite version of our Arcee to ever be portrayed. But for me, unfortunately, I never really watched the first 2 seasons of the Transformers Prime cartoon. What put me off of Transformers Prime was the fact that they killed Cliffjumper in the pilot episode. So I didn't really get into the Prime series until Beast Hunters, so I actually have more emotional attachment looking at this figure as Solus Prime instead of the character that it actually is, which is the Prime version of Arcee. So bear in mind with me while we get her out of her box in a moment. But yes, this figure, I believe, can pass as a version of Solus Prime, but the reason why I have a question mark at the title of the video is I want to ask you guys and want you guys to know, do you think that this figure can double as Generation 1 Solus Prime? So, without further delay, let's get her out of her box and take a close look at her in robot mode. Alright, and so here is Legacy Prime Arcee out of her box and in her robot mode, and I have to admit, I haven't watched too many video reviews on her, which I probably should have done before I started recording this video of her, or doing my own review, but to be honest, I think she does look pretty impressive for what she is. I have to apologize right now. The only other version of Prime Arcee that I have in my Transformers collection is the tiny little 2-inch tall Cyberverse Legends Class Arcee figure, and I wanted to bring that out and do a size comparison of it with this version of Prime Arcee, but for the life of me, I cannot remember where I put that little Arcee figure. I know I still have it in my collection, so it is somewhere around here, but here, but I realized that by the time it would take me to go around looking for it, I could already finish the review up without it, so I apologize for not having another figure of Prime Arcee in my collection to do a size comparison with. So, for Arcee's weapons, well, first of all, I apologize. I don't know if I missed a step in the instruction sheets on transforming Prime Arcee into her robot mode. But for some reason her pelvis isn't locking in place. I don't know if that's just a universal problem with this figure or not. There's two weapons that Arcee comes with. Fresh out of the box, she has this blue shield that actually separates Ace, and with these two halves of this Energon shield, they're actually the arm blades that Arcee would deploy. It's been a while since I watched the Prime cartoon series, and even though Arcee's appearance didn't change during Beast Hunters, I vaguely remember the arm blades were her weapons of choice. And then, in addition to the arm blades, Arcee's other weapon is the front wheel of her motorcycle mode, and according to the photos on the back of her box and on her instruction sheet, you're supposed to attach it behind her head like this with the wheels flipped open. You can either do that or you can put it in one of her hands, which I'm trying to do, and it can act as a double turbine crossbow weapon if you are so inclined. I need to see Arcee look like that, but for now, I'm going to just plug it onto her back since it looks the most cohesive for her in her robot mode. The back half of Arcee's head is clear blue plastic, so you can get some light piping on her, but holding it up to a bright light, which is the my ceiling bedroom lamp, even then, the blue plastic used for Arcee's light piping is such a dark shade of blue plastic that you need a very bright light to hold it on. But yeah, so Arcee's pelvis is held in place on a ball joint, so you can have her look left and right. Kind of. I guess that's one joint. Her head's on a ball joint, so it can rotate left and right. Fresh out of the box, the ball joint's super tight, so I don't want to use it too much. She has universal jointed shoulders, so her arms have the ability to go forwards and backwards 360 degrees, but it's hindered by her backpack. Swivel joints at the bicep, hinged elbows, and wrist swivels, which is always a positive. A universal jointed hips, so her legs can go forward that much, they can go back that much. She can do the splits, if you are inclined to see her do the splits. Swivel joints at the thigh, but they're clicking on a piece of something. I don't know if it's a piece of plastic or if it's just the way the hip joint itself is shaped. And she does have hinged knees, but if you move the lower leg too far, you'll hit the transformation joint. And this I can see being a problem with this Arcee figure is the upper and lower half of her legs is held by a joint that's thin enough that you could actually call it her leg bone. And so that could be, if you transform the figure too often, that could be a potential problem. Transformers figures with a thin joints in the legs in the past, those have broken off from transforming too much. So, word of advice, be careful on transforming Legacy Prime Arcee. Back and forth between her robot mode and vehicle mode. The toes do rotate up and down, but it's on a ratchet joint, and it doesn't really sit flush with the heel spur. And then there's ankle rockers, but the entire foot at the heel can't really go back that far. So that is a tad disappointing. So, like I said, the main reason I got this figure was because I believe that this figure can double as Generation 1 Solus Prime, so that's the main reason I got this figure. With the loose joints, with some joints being loose and some joints being super tight, and none of the joints really locking in place that much, I'm starting to realize, realize that unfortunately the legacy version of Prime Arcee, it might not be as impressive as both of the original deluxe class Prime Arcee figures, the first edition and the mass retail version. So for some size comparisons with some Generation 1 Transformers characters, here is Prime Arcee next to one of my favorite versions of Generation 1 Arcee. This is the Titans Return version of Generation 1 Arcee, based on her appearance in the series finale of the G1 cartoon titled The Rebirth, in which she became an Autobot headmaster. So you can see the size difference between a deluxe class figure from the Titans Return line back in 2016 versus a Legacy Deluxe figure being released in the current year of 2022. So that is how much Arcee's design changed from her G1 version to her Prime version. And yes, I'm going to be using this figure from now on after I finish the review as my G1 Solus Prime, because I think that this figure can fit in with Generation 1 Transformers characters. And for a size comparison with another Transformers G1 character, here is Prime Arcee next to Generation 1 Optimus Prime. In some continuities, it's revealed that Optimus Prime is in fact the 13th original Prime, and that after defeating Unicron, Primus sent Optimus Prime's soul into the future, and he was reborn as a young Autobot named Orion Pax. So I'll let you guys decide what you think of that little bit of Transformers trivia. But yes, as far as answering the question in the title of my own review, I personally think that the figure can double as Solus Prime, but again, please let me know what you guys think of that idea. Yeah, and yes, that's pretty much it. The wheels do spin even when they're attached to her back. Back as her backpack, the wheels on her legs spin as well. And yes, all in all, I'm unfortunately not as impressed with this figure as I have been with the other Legacy figures I reviewed so far, such as Laser, Optimus Prime, and Deluxe Class Skids. So without further delay, let's get this figure transformed into alt mode and wrap up the review. Alright, so it took a little longer than I had hoped, but here is Legacy Prime Arcee, or Solus Prime as I'm going to call her, in her motorcycle mode. Oh, it's very much like the original Prime Arcee figures, both the first edition and the mass retail edition versions of this figure. Her front wheel can go forward and backwards slightly, and I don't know if that's intentional or if I forgot to lock a joint in place. But the front wheel does spin fairly well. The back wheel doesn't really spin that well, but if you push her hard enough on a flat surface, she will roll successfully. For weapon storage on her two arm blades, the instruction sheet tells you to put them back here on the back end. The only other 5mm pegs that these two halves can plug in is here on both sides of her. There's not really any 5mm peg, 5mm port where you can combine the two blades into the shield and put it in the center of her, but overall I do enjoy how it came out. There's a kickstand on this side of Prime Arcee. One gripe I have is that the legs themselves don't have any joints to just lock in place. You rotate them around and fold them around on the sides of the bike, and then these panel sections which form the wings of the robot mode clip in and hold it together. So it is somewhat of a sturdy bike, but if you try and squeeze it here on the sides of it hard enough, then it will fall apart. Alright, but overall I do enjoy how it came out. For a size comparison, I'll bring out one of the figures I brought a moment ago. So here is Legacy Prime Arcee next to Titans Return Generation 1 Headmaster Arcee. So really is amazing how the design differences from the Prime and G1 versions of Arcee differ from each other. I'm not going to bring out Optimus Prime. It took too long for me to transform this figure already. But there's an idea of the G1 and Prime versions of Arcee you compare with each other. So, do I recommend getting this figure? The proverbial question to end off the review. Well, here's my opinion. I only recommend you get this figure if you're a true fan of Prime Arcee if you're a diehard fan of the Transformers Prime version of Arcee. If you're not and you have the original Prime Arcee figures, then this figure can be an easy pass. I've seen collectors who have the original Prime Arcee deluxe figures have said that the Legacy version is more of a pain to transform and the joints aren't as tolerable or tolerant as they are on the original Prime Arcee figure. And one last gimmick is that her front wheel can turn left and right. But yeah, I only recommend you get this figure if you absolutely want to have a new figure based on the Prime version of Arcee. Or the main reason I recommend getting this figure is if you get it for the reason I did, which is to use this figure as Generation 1 Solus Prime. Those are the two main reasons I recommend getting this figure. If neither of those reasons are a valid reason for you to want to collect this figure, then Legacy Prime Arcee is an easy pass. But regardless, it is a pretty nice looking motorcycle Transformers figure regardless. So thank you guys all so much. This has been the TFN Geek. Please stay tuned for my other upcoming review. You stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.